everybody. It's another day and we're still breathing. Okay, so we're going to start with our feet hip distance apart. I'll just angle this up a little bit. So we're going to start with our feet hip distance apart. So we're going to find that by finding our hip bone, pointing our fingers down where our hip bone is. We want our big toe to be directly underneath our hip bone, like where we're pointing, and the weight to be equally distributed between the big toe, the outside toe, and our heel. We're going to have our feet, our knees loosely bent, or if you're able to have straight legs without locking them tight, that's great, good for you. Personally, I find tension creeps in, so for me, I will have my, hi Simon, happy Tuesday, woo! So yeah, I find to have my knees slightly bent just prevents them locking. And we're just gonna imagine we've got a string coming out of the top of our head, as if we were like a marionette puppet, nice straight back, shoulders down, but everything nice and relaxed. So don't force your back to be straighter, just, you know, over time, all the bad habits can sort of melt away, but gradually, day by day, you might not necessarily notice things changing dramatically. Maybe you will, and that's amazing, but, you know, don't give yourself a hard time, don't force anything. I've said before, for me, my shoulders go up, especially this one, and when I was first trying to correct that, you know, I'd sort of force it down, I'd hold it down, and you know, I sort of strained something, because even though then my shoulders were in a much better position, because the muscles were so used to being in the wrong position that it actually sort of hurt almost to then get into the right position. So be gentle, you know, it takes time, and that's okay, we've got time. So knees slightly bent, and we're going to swing from our hips. We're just going to let our arms be completely relaxed and floppy, and they're just going to sort of swing round with the momentum of your body. And hopefully this is just going to sort of wake us up a bit, warm us up, get the blood pumping, and just sort of shake out some of the creaks. I always find if I'm freezing cold and I do this, I don't know why, for me this one just really seems to warm me up somehow. And again, you know, it's quite gentle, so that's what we want. And shake it out. Okay, so this week we're focusing a little bit more on sort of a bit lower down. So we're gonna, first of all, put our thumb sort of at the back of our hand there, so that we can stretch gently. Should feel the stretch there, sort of in our wrist, and you know, be as hard or gentle, and then shake it out as you can. Good morning. Ooh, daily bark. I love bark. So yeah, feeling the stretch here, and shake it out. You know, we don't ever want to stretch too hard. You've got to feel it within your own body, that you know, you don't want to sort of hurt yourself. You can, even by just doing something as simple as that, you can sort of pull a muscle or something. So stretching those forearms indeed. Okay, so now we're going to go stop, then turn the hand around, then bring your other hand across so that you're going to grab this sort of muscle here, and then you're just going to gently twist it round, and you'll sort of feel it stretching round this way, and then shake it out. Then other side, stop, turn your hand to face the other way, bring your other hand across and round, so that and then you're just gently going to pull this way, and shake it out. And we're just going to open and close our hands like this. And the reason we're doing all these different body parts is because, you know, everybody holds tension in different areas, and sometimes you might need to focus. So like I've said many times, for me, for example, my shoulders, you might be some other body part that has more stress. So if we try and go through all the body parts, then that way we can sort of, hopefully everybody will get covered at some point. Okay, so we're gonna stand again with our feet hip distance apart. So remember, we find that by finding our hip bones, pointing down. We want our big toe to be just underneath our hip bones. And we're gonna just breathe in a normal sort of a way. But whilst we're breathing, I just want you to be aware that the way in which you breathe, you know, when you say how do you breathe and people say with your lungs or with your nose, it's actually your diaphragm that does the work. That's the muscle. The lungs are just sort of bags, really. So if you feel under your rib cage, like the bottom rib, just sort of sitting underneath that bottom rib is where your diaphragm lives. And it's kind of like a sheet, and it pushes the air out, it pushes upwards, and that squeezes the air out of your lungs, and then it relaxes and drops, and the air comes back in. So a lot of people think of breathing as being, you actively take the air in, and then you sort of relax and the breath comes out. I want you to flip that on its head. I want you to actively use your muscle to push the air out, and then to breathe in, we're just going to relax. The diaphragm's just going to fall down, and the air will come back in of its own accord, like a sort of hydraulic system. So we're just going to breathe in that way, and then in a minute we're going to add some arm movement. So you can start breathing, or hopefully you were breathing anyway, but we'll add the arm movements in a minute, where we'll bring our hands up like this when we breathe out, and that sort of represents the diaphragm pushing the air out. Then when we relax and drop our diaphragm, our hands are going to come down like this, again representing the diaphragm dropping down, and then we're going to bring our arms up like this, and that's going to sort of represent as our rib cage expands as it fills with air. So first we're just going to get into our own rhythm with the breathing. We're going to bend and straighten our legs. Again, when you straighten your legs, you don't have to have them fully straight. They can be slightly bent, just as long as they're not locked tight, then that's fine. They can be straight or slightly bent, just straighter than when you're bending. And I don't want any kind of jerky. We want this all to be nice and fluid and smooth, just bending and straightening and just getting into your rhythm. And then we're going to add the arm movements. So on the out breath, and in, and push, and relax and open. And to the side. Again, I always say, if you're able to do this in a mirror, that's ideal, because then you can sort of see if any bad habits are creeping in. Very good. And shake it out. Okay. So we're going to stand again. If you need to sit down, that's absolutely fine. Either way, we want to have the string coming out of the top of our head, holding us up. It helps to put your head in the right sort of position. If it helps you, you can actually, gently, but grab a chunk of your hair and just sort of pull it a little bit to get your head in the right position. Shoulders down, nice straight spine. Feet hip distance apart. Even if you're sitting down, you can still sort of have this same principle. We don't want our knees held together, and I don't want you to cross your legs. Just nice and relaxed. If you're standing, knees can be slightly bent. If you are able to look in a mirror, look into your own eyes. Otherwise, just try and find a spot on the wall that is roughly your eye level. And we're just going to breathe. We're going to channel the breath to that spot. So I want you to just push like this. And whilst you're doing it, I want you to try and envisage your diaphragm pushing the air, pushing upwards and squeezing the air out of your lungs. When you get to the end of the breath, I want you to just try and squeeze a little bit more, Sometimes it helps to put your hands on your rib cage and actually squeeze the rib cage itself to get out that extra last bit of air. Especially if you're kind of new to all of this, and then your diaphragm might not be as strong as it could be. So then once you've finally got to the end of your breath, I want you to just try and hold it for a few seconds, and then you're going to just relax. The diaphragm's going to drop down and your lungs will flood back in with air. So I don't want you to think of it as actively taking in a breath. I want you to just relax and let the air come back in, and then you're going to activate the diaphragm again by pushing it upwards, and then push a little bit more. Then when you've come to the end of the breath, push a little bit more. Then you're going to hold it again, and then just relax and drop the diaphragm, and the lungs will fill with air. Don't worry about trying to either keep up with me, or if I need to take a breath and you're still going, just carry on. You do you, I do me. Everybody, if you're in the room with somebody else, it's unlikely that you'll both have exactly the same lung capacity. We're all slightly different, and we're all at different stages, and all sorts of things. So just as long as you're pushing all the air out that you can and holding it, and then relaxing and dropping, it doesn't matter how long the breath lasts. Don't hold back on the breath, just push the air out. That's what we want to do. And again, if you're able to look in the mirror, and even if you're not, try and be aware of, if any bad habits start creeping in, any tension anywhere in your body. Don't beat yourself up, just try and relax, just, breathe through it. If your shoulders come up, try and bring them down. If your head tilts, try and straighten it. Whatever your bad habits are, just try and be mindful of them, and correct them gently wherever you can. Okay, so when you come to the end of whatever breath you're currently on, we're going to switch to a f sound. So I want you to be nice and loose and sort of open. Quite a lot of people go like this, and as you can sort of hear and see, it's you don't have as much space for the air to come out. So what tends to happen is people's faces go red, and you're not able to get rid of the air. We just want to be nice and relaxed, so that we can have a nice steady stream of air which we can control by pushing up with our diaphragm. Get to the end, try to push a little bit more, then hold it for as long as you can, then just relax. Feel the diaphragm drop down, lungs fill with air. Very good. And when you get to the end of whatever breath you're on now, we want to try and do an E sound. So you can pick any note. We're going to introduce a little bit of voice. Pick any note you like. And I really like the idea. So like when you do this in a class and there's like 20 people or 10 people or however many people, and everybody sort of has a slightly different note, and you make these crazy chords. Obviously most of us, I know a couple of people sometimes do it with someone else in the room, but most of us are doing this on our own. But we can maybe just try and imagine what everybody else is doing, and somewhere in the universe all of our notes will kind of meet and make this nice chord. So we're going to do an E, nice smiley open E. We want to try and avoid having E the sort of tension in our neck or screwing up our eyes, go E. Just try and have everything nice and relaxed, just almost like just smile to make E, but exaggerate it if you can. E. Very good, and come to the end of whatever breath you're currently on. If you need to shake it out a little bit, that's good. We're going to do a nice big yawn and stretch. Very good, it's much easier to do a yawn when other people are doing it in the same room, I find. But that feeling of having a nice open throat whilst you yawn is a very good one for singing. So try and remember that. Try not to stifle yawns in general if you can, because it's good to open your throat. Okay, so we're going to do another breathing exercise, which is not necessarily the best one for singing, this one, but it is quite good for a stress relief situation. I've said this before, but personally I get very nervous making phone calls. I don't know why, it's really silly. And it's always fine, like once I do it, I'm always fine, but nevertheless, every time I need to make a phone call, I'm like, ugh. And sometimes just having, it takes like 5 minutes, just do a little bit of breathing, calm down, and then you're sort of ready to face this terrible fear. So we're just going to breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, then breathe out for 4, hold it for 4. And I have found this because you kind of have to control the in and the out, it sort of focuses you a little bit. So we'll just go in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Very good. And shake it out. And what I want you to be trying to do in any case, like whether you're standing, sitting, I know I said I'd do some lying down ones. I haven't tidied the floor, so I'll maybe do that tomorrow. But whatever position you're in, I still want you to try and be mindful of, like, even if you're not completely sure what your correct posture should look like or should feel like, if you just try and be mindful of like just relaxing things, then that does help. I mean, it doesn't always work, because sometimes for me, like I said, having my shoulder up like this, and at first that obviously feels the most relaxed to me because I'm used to it. So, it does help to look in the mirror as well. But, sometimes even if you're not 100% sure what you should be doing, at least just thinking about it and trying to work it out kind of helps. So, you know, just always try and be mindful of your posture, and when all your bad habits do creep, I mean, maybe you'll be really lucky and you don't have any bad habits, and even if you did, you can get rid of them really quickly. But for me, at least, I can only speak for myself, but I think it's normal. You know, bad habits creep in, and just don't beat yourself up about it. Just try and, you know, gently correct them and things like this. Okay, so we're gonna sit, stand, lie down, however you want to be. If we're standing, we're gonna have our feet hip distance apart, like before, knees slightly bent, or at least loose knees. If you're sitting down, don't cross your legs, don't hold your knees together, just, again, nice and relaxed. We've got our string coming out. See, I don't know if you noticed, but every time, even if I feel like I'm standing in my correct posture, but then every time I say do the string, it always changes my posture. So it's never quite there, even when I feel like, oh, I'm in the right posture. You know, even though we've been doing this session for a little bit, I'm still kind of correcting constantly. Shoulders down, arms by your side, nice and relaxed. You're going to look at your spot on the wall that is eye level, or into your own eyes if you're able to do this in a mirror, and then just close your eyes. That's just to get your head sort of in the right place, hopefully. And we're just going to think about our breathing. My only bad habit is telling people I don't have bad habits. Very good. Okay, so we're just going to focus on breathing. Just breathing normally now. We're not going to hold our breath or do anything crazy. But I do want you to just be mindful that it is your diaphragm that is doing the work of pushing the air out, and then just relaxing and dropping, and that's how the air comes back in. So ideally, we're not going to actively take a breath in. We're just going to allow the breath back in, and then we're going to activate the diaphragm by pushing it up again, and then just relaxing, dropping, and the air floods back in. So you can breathe through your nose or through your mouth, or some combination of the two, whatever feels comfortable to you, and just normal breathing in and out, but just being aware that it's the out breath where we're putting the energy into to push the air out, and then relaxing. Just let the diaphragm just drop down, and the air just comes back in of its own accord. And whilst you're doing this, I want you to just think about, I want you to just listen to all the sounds you can hear outside of the room that you're in. So it might be a car driving past, it might be the breeze in the trees, it might be completely silent, and then you're just going to listen to that silence, and you're going to try and sort of zone out any other sounds that you can hear from in the room. You know, if those sounds come in, then they come in, but you're going to try and concentrate on listening to the sounds outside the room. And all the while, pushing the air out of your lungs using your diaphragm, and then relaxing, dropping the diaphragm, and allowing the air to flood back in. inside the room that you're in. And you're going to try and block out the sounds outside the room. If you hear them, you hear them, but you're going to listen to the sounds inside the room. So it might be a clock ticking, it might be the buzz of a radiator, it might be completely silent, and then you're going to concentrate on that silence, and all the while pushing the air out of your lungs using your diaphragm, and then relaxing, dropping the diaphragm, and just allowing the air to flood back in. Own body, so you might be able to hear your heart beating, you might be able to hear yourself breathing, you might be completely silent, and then that's what you're going to listen to. And all the while, you're going to push the air out of your lungs with your diaphragm, and then just relax. Allow the diaphragm to drop, and the air flood back in. those things together. So you're going to listen to your own body, you're going to listen to the room that you're in, and you're going to listen to the world beyond the room that you're in. And all the while, you're going to be pushing the air out of your lungs with your diaphragm, then relaxing, dropping the diaphragm, and just allowing the air to flood back in. Just listening to everything that's happening around you and within you, and how you connect into this space and this time, all through pushing the air out of your lungs with your diaphragm, then relaxing, dropping the diaphragm and allowing the air to flood back in. In the space, nice and awake. Excellent session, well done everybody. So as usual, we're going to finish with a little sing along. This week's song is The Tide is High. I have put a link to some lyrics in the description, so I'll just give you a sec to find those if you need them. And I should have said yesterday as well, because I know some of you play instruments. The chords on this are really easy. It's just D, D, G, A, pretty much. I mean, it's slightly, I think there's a bit when you do an extra G, but you'll figure it out. So D, G, A, if anyone wants to play along as well. Because, you know, whilst we're singing, I want you to be thinking about the breathing. That's okay. So I want you to be thinking about the breathing. So obviously, if normally when you would sing, you would play an instrument, then it is worth practicing your singing with the instrument. It sounds obvious, but you know, but even if you don't, you know, even if it's not a professional thing that you're trying to do, still just try and, you know, putting the breathing into practice whilst you're singing. It's fun and it's healthy, and it just sort of sometimes helps bridge that gap between just exercises and real life. Okay, so enough talking, let's sing. The tide is high, but I'm holding on. I'm gonna be your number one. I'm not the kind of girl who gives up just like that. I know the tide is high, but I'm holding on. I'm gonna be your number one, number one, number one. It's not the things you do that tease and hurt me back, but it's the way you do the things you do to me. I'm not the kind of girl who gives up just like that. I know the tide is high, but I'm holding on. I'm gonna be your number one, number one, number one. Every girl wants you to be her man, but I'll wait right here until it's my time. I'm not the kind of girl who gives up just like that. I know the tide is high, but I'm holding on. I'm gonna be your number one, number one, number one. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you've enjoyed the session. I will be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, and every weekday at 11. So hopefully I will see you again another time soon. Have a great Tuesday and rest of the week, and thank you very much for joining me. Lots of love. Bye.